As I'm sure many of you are already aware, my style of angling is slightly different to the conventional way of fishing, whether it be carp fishing or coarse fishing, and that is because I've spent the last couple of years obviously fishing in the city. Most of the venues I fish are really built up, urban, not all of them, but most of the time I find myself fishing on concrete banks, fishing on places where not everyone, should I say, would find it the most relaxing place to fish. But I don't know, I get a good buzz out of it. I think there's some really special carp sort of residing in these waters, and that's why for the last couple of years I've spent the majority of my time targeting these really cool carp in such venue. Now, I'm not really a techie person. I've never really used a bait boat, never really used a drone, anything like that. However, a couple of months ago, I did get myself a deeper. Now, I've been experimenting with it. I'm not a pro by any means, but I have found that there's many different use cases for it. And I'm here today fishing at a really urban venue called Shadwell Basin. It's a really deep dock in the centre of London, home to plenty of carp. And throughout this session, I'm going to be talking you through some of the things that I found really useful with the deeper that will hopefully give you some tips and get you more carp on the bank. So I'm going to talk to you about a couple of the use cases that I found have benefited me the most. I suppose it's best to probably start with the reason why I bought the deeper in the first place. A couple of years ago, I bought myself a small fishing boat, which I used to cruise on the canals and rivers in London, doing a bit of personal fishing. And I didn't want to spend loads of money on a fancy echo sounder. So I had a little look into the deeper. It's something that I've been keeping an eye on for years. I'm not necessarily a techie person, like I said, but when I saw some of the features and for the price range, what you're getting out of it, I thought I'd take the plunge and get one. And so far, in just a short space of time, I've used it on the river on my boat, I've used it on canals, park lakes, docks. Basically every venue that I've fished, I've taken it with me to see how I can get the most out of it. So starting out with the boat, I tend to bait a lot, so I'll drive up and down, and I've always found myself a little bit stuck when the clarity is bad, especially on the river. Some days you can go up and down and not have a clue where the carp are. I don't use it for fish finding, but what I do use it for is trailing off the back of the boat. When I'm driving really slowly, I can cast the deeper out, and without having to plonk a lead and stop the boat and lead around in a spot, I can just gently flick the deeper out and cruise nice and slowly, keep my phone on the side there, and as I'm driving, I can see, yep, 4 foot, 5 foot, 6 foot, 10 foot, and I can see where all the sort of drops are, where all the deep sort of gullies and channels are in the river. And I find not necessarily leads me to fish, what it does do is lead me to areas of the river 10 times quicker than what it would do had I had just a rod and a lead. So that's the river. I found it really beneficial on there. And obviously I've just been flicking it out, but there is actually an arm, which I will get in the future, which actually clips onto the back of your boat and you can use it directly on there. So that's something I'll be getting as well. Whilst I'm on the topic of rivers, you don't necessarily need a boat. You can also use the deeper from the bank. You don't need to have a boat on the canal or river. You can cast from the bank, and I found on a couple of occasions it being really good to find out things like the depths. It also will show you where there's a lot of cabbage weed. For example, I've used it on the Copper Mill and I was casting across to the far bank and I was drifting it nice and slow with the flow. Something, again, you couldn't do with the marker float. Trying to get the depth of the river or canal you're fishing with a marker float, it's going to be drifting downstream, it's going to be a nightmare. So the deeper not only will tell you the depth of water you're fishing in, you might see a really nice sort of gentle slope coming up, you might see sort of a really nice little shallow ground with a bit of gravelly bottom, and you'll be able to see that on the deeper. You'll see when it drifts over things like cabbage weed and oxygen weed, you'll get a green pattern on the screen, and then when it drifts over that, you'll see the screen will go a lot clearer and you'll get that nice sort of sandy, smooth bottom. And that's the kind of areas you want to be looking to fish. To do that with just a lead, or like I say, a marker, will take you so much longer. And that's another use case for the deeper that I've found to be really beneficial and most importantly, really time saving. another pretty obvious way of using the deeper, which I'm only going to briefly touch on because this doesn't really apply to me and the style of angling that I do, but I have found it to be useful over the winter when, for example, fishing day ticket lakes or syndicates or park lakes, especially ones with a variation of contours on the bottom. For example, really silty lakes in the winter months, you can often find using the deeper will find you those really carpy spots along the side of rushes where the fish have dug in that you'd never ever find with a lead. Even out in open water, I've reeled it in at times, and just slight dips in the silt will often show you exactly where the carp are sitting up, where they're flanking, trying to get leeches off them. But like I say, I don't want to go too much into that because those kind of venues I don't tend to fish too much. I just thought I'd touch on it because it is a massive edge finding little carp holes. The thing I want to talk about the most is finding massive features. Now, for example, the lake we're at now, Shadwell, is a big, deep dock. It's been here years and years, and the bottom is full of all sorts. Motorbikes, shopping trolleys, big snags, boulders, everything you can imagine is on the bottom of this lake. Now, you would have no hope in finding that without a really expensive echo sounder or the deeper, to which we have with us today. And I'm hoping throughout this session, I can show you what I'm talking about, because out there, you've got depths up to 28 foot. And obviously this time of year, I don't want to be fishing that. So we're going to try and find those really nice shallow bars and show you exactly how on these urban deep dock kind of venues, you can really make the most out of the deeper. Right, let's get on to the fifth and final tip, and that is for me probably my favourite use case with the deeper, and that is the new bushwhacker top section. Now, the bushwhacker baiting pole is something that I'm pretty sure you're aware of. If not, you must have been living under a rock. No, I'm joking. It's a really, really just incredible piece of kit. It's sort of something that's never been done before. Yes, we've had baiting spoons, but they've only ever gone to 14 meters. This one, the bushwhacker, you can go as many sections as you want. So you can go up to 80 yards out into the lake and drop, for example, on little tiny spots where fish are showing without making a single bit of disturbance. Now, the reason why the deeper this is my favorite tip with the deeper, is because the new bushwhacker top head, which is a very new product, it's not actually been released yet. Luckily, I've been able to get one for this. You can see it's got the attachment on here. Now, this is a deeper mount that is only on the newer part of the bushwhacker, and you get this, which obviously attaches on, and the deeper then sits in the water in front of the bushwhacker. I haven't even used it yet, so I'm going to be learning how to with you in a minute when I get the rod out. But from what I've seen, obviously you ship the pole out, you've got your phone in your hand or clipped onto your rod using the deeper attachment, and as you push out, not only are you going to get the silence and the accuracy of dropping the rig with a bushwhacker, but you're also going to get the features of the deeper. So for me, for this kind of venue, I'm going to be shipping out and I'm going to be looking for the shallowest part in front of me. Now, from fishing here previously, I've got a rough idea that there's a nice bar out there, but this is going to tell me the exact depth, and it's going to tell me when I'm right over the top of it, in which case, get the rod ready, tilt the pole, and there we go. You can't get any more accurate than that. So not only being able to put a handful of bait directly over your rig, zero leading, zero disturbance, but you also know the depth you're fishing and the exact spot where you're dropping the rig. So it's without doubt a massive edge, and something that hopefully, if you put to good use in your own angling, you'll have more carp on the bank. our first carp. I've not long gone to sleep. All the rods are out. And there we go. The first one. Only a couple of hours after getting the rigs in, so no doubt a few more bites are going to come before the morning. Not bad for the first one. A little pristine common, massive fins on it. Put up a good little fight. Just why we came to Shadwell. Let's get that rod back in, see if we can get some more. Good morning. Another cool little Shadwell common. You can see they're all spawned out. Long, lean little fish. Just caught him just as the sun was coming up, about half an hour ago. And yeah, another bite. On that spot with the bushwhacker, just a handful of bait in the slightly shallower water. And yeah, I think that's going to round up the session now. Got about an hour left, so you never know. But if this is going to be the last one, I hope that you can take some of the tips and tricks using the deeper, put them into your own angling. Most importantly, get you some more carp on the bank.